Uh-oh. LinkedIn Live. I don't care.
I think we're live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome
Oh.
to Jen and Sharon.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Sharon's working on the technical back end, and I'm just here having coffee. I am a total freeloader this morning.
Well, I'm still new at this, but it's supposed to go live on LinkedIn too. I don't know who's on LinkedIn, but if I guess you can normally watch us there, but I was getting an error message that we're not on LinkedIn. But you know what? Most of you are probably joining us on Facebook, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Jen and I were just talking. Last week we were talking about getting our alone time, and before we went live, we were talking about all the people and pets that we needed to get out of the way before we could actually go live. Because
it's not my kids. I mean, my kids aren't small, and yours aren't either. It's not like they're under our feet or climbing our legs, but they're just there. It's like this constant background shuffling of, going into the kitchen to get a snack, or somebody's sitting 2 feet away from me and sniffling, and you just need to get away. And I'm sure they feel the same way about me. 100,000 times worse, probably.
It's a lot of togetherness.
It's a lot.
Today we're talking about quitting and whether we're letting our kids quit things. And I was thinking, how many times would they just wish they could quit this whole pandemic and staying home? I mean,
that's something we could all say we would love to quit. I would love to quit that. But.
Quitting is kind of a luxury when you think about it, because the fact that you have choice about what you can and can't do is not something we necessarily have right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it, definitely. Before we get into the meat of this topic on quitting, I just want to pat myself on the back for something. This is totally unrelated to what we're talking about today, but I'm feeling really good about myself today because it's 10:32 Eastern time in the morning, and I already know what I'm making for dinner tonight. That never happens, ever.
Well, I think we need to know what it is now.
I'm going to make a minestrone soup recipe for the Instant Pot that I found on the interwebs that says it's the Olive Garden recipe, and my kids seem really excited about it.
Oh, okay. Well, the only reason I know what I'm making for dinner is because I was actually supposed to make it on Monday, and then I realized that I didn't have any chicken for the chicken piccata, and that's kind of hard to overcome.
Okay, well, now you're forcing me to reveal my dark secrets too, which is I was intending to make this soup yesterday, but at 4:45 p.m., which is my normal time to start thinking about what I'm going to make for dinner, I shuffled into the kitchen and started riffling through the cupboards, and I was like, well, I don't have this, but I can substitute this. And I don't have that. I could probably stretch this. And then it came down to like one of the main ingredients that I didn't have. And I was like, this is a sign from the universe that we're ordering out from the taco place tonight. And everybody was happy with that choice. So
if it's the same taco place I'm thinking of, it was an excellent choice. But most of our viewers can't go there, so we won't go. We won't go there.
But I love them. So anyway, now to the topic at hand, which is quitting. Yay, nay, what are the rules around it? And I mean, raise your hand if you had a kid who ever wanted to quit something. If you haven't, then I don't know. That seems really unusual.
Well, there is the other side of not quitting enough. I feel like maybe I wasn't enough of a quitter when I was young. Like, one of the successes of my adult life is that I've learned to quit more things, which for me has been very uncomfortable.
I made a list of things that I have quit as an adult. Ooh. Do you want to know what some of them are?
I do. Let's start with that.
Okay. So when I say as an adult, I mean after college, let's say. But even some of these are even more recently as a mom. I quit knitting. Do you remember when everybody wanted to learn to knit because Julia Roberts was knitting and all these cute things where you could make with knitting, and it just was a thing for a while. And I went to Joann's and I tried to learn how to knit from the cranky ladies at Joann's, and I don't think you could really learn things online as well back then. So I bought the Knitting for Dummies book. I bought yarn. I got the needles. Everything. My mom gave me her whole set of stuff because she quit knitting a long time ago. She has a good reason. She has arthritis. Anyway, I still have this vivid memory of me sitting on the couch, and I can only picture what my face looked like as I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And my husband looked at me and he says, "Are you enjoying what you're doing?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Oh." And I was like, maybe I don't have to do this. It was sort of that aha moment of, just because all your friends are doing the thing that's the cool thing, maybe some of us need to be the people who enjoy the things that are being knitted.
Yeah.
I will be that person.
You can be the knit recipient.
I am the knit recipient.
What about books, Jen? Do you quit books?
Yeah, actually, I put on my list that I quit book group because
Ah,
because I loved the people in my book group. I absolutely loved them, but I couldn't stand the pressure of the fact that I had to finish a book I didn't like. And I'm one of those people who I do the homework, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't the person who could show up at book group and say, I only made it a third of the way through. I was going to finish that book come hell or high water. And then I realized this is making me spend time reading books I don't love. And what if I didn't do that? The book I did. What if I had that time to read a book I did love?
Right.
I gave myself permission to quit reading books. And because of that, I had to kind of gently ease myself out of the book group.
Hopefully I'm not jumping ahead, but we had a couple of articles that we were looking at about quitting on our Your Teen website, and Elizabeth Spencer had a really good point. Something a friend had said to her. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I don't know, but I wrote one down too.
Okay. Well, I wrote down a bunch of things because there was really a lot of interesting wisdom there. But one of the things was it's not quitting; it's making a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that comes in with the book you're talking about, because you could choose to be reading a book that you want instead, because there's only so much time in the world. And I guess that comes in with all quitting. I mean, I guess you could just quit things and then just lie there like a lump. But most of the time, with our limited time, you're going to be doing something else instead.
Right. And it's making a choice to use that time for something else. I did write that down about reframe it as not necessarily quitting, but choosing, and self-advocating, which is something we're big on with our teens. We want them to learn to advocate for their time and to say, they spend a lot of their time doing school stuff and they have limited amount of time for pleasure, whatever that thing is, whether it's sports or music or Minecraft, whatever it is that is their pleasure time.
And we'll link that article and the other ones we might mention as soon as we can.
So sometimes they need to be given a little bit of agency to make that choice. But I liked one of the things that in that article that she said was, if you did quit, what would this allow you to make room for? So in other words, it's not just saying, yes, you can just take that off your plate. And sometimes they do need to take something off your plate. But if you sense that maybe it's like, they just would rather be playing video games and you don't think that's a great use of their time to quit piano lessons so they have that half hour more they could tack on, I think it's okay to have that conversation as a parent to say, all right, let's do this collaboratively. Let's just say you did quit piano lessons. What would you want to do with that half hour a day, ideally, like everybody's kid? I'm sure everybody's kid is practicing a half hour a day like their teacher told them to. But in theory, if you were practicing a half hour a day, what would you do with that time instead? And then, to try to hold them to it a little bit too.
Right.
So that's an option.
Did you have that experience with instruments or anything with your kids wanting to quit? And did you resist it?
I did. I had one who took piano lessons all the way through, and one who wanted to bail out. And they were both really good. I mean, they're musically, they're gifted.
Of course they are.
No, really, honestly, they were both really good. But I was taken aback because I didn't realize she wasn't enjoying it. When she told me she wanted to quit, I was like, but you're good and you like it. And she's like, no, Mom, you like it. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize, and at the time she wanted to take up a different instrument for her band, and she did use that time to pivot and try something new. So it was a little bit of an easier swallow to say, okay, because you want to make room for something you want to try that's new.
Right.
I think that's another really great reason to quit something, is because maybe that does allow you to try something new. And I think like you, I was raised in an environment of like, finish what you start whenever possible. And I actually think that held me back from trying some new things, because I didn't want to make that commitment. Like, I just wanted to be able to dabble and try it. And if I didn't like it, I didn't want to necessarily have to stick with it. So sometimes I think I didn't try sports because I thought, well, if I hate it, then I'm stuck and I don't want to do that. Whereas maybe if
Right.
I'm not putting this on my parents. This was all inside my head.
Right.
If I had a little bit more of the attitude of, here's a question I like to use with my kids. What's the worst that could happen?
Mm-hmm.
And you can frame it both ways. What's the worst that could happen if you did quit or try something? What's the worst that could happen if you didn't try the thing or didn't quit? And really talk that through and get to the emotion behind it. Is it that do you have fear of failure? Is that what's underlying this? Or do you just really not enjoy this? I think that was the other question that's the Elizabeth Spencer article she put in there that I
Right.
wrote down, which is, I want to say it how she said it. When you're doing the thing, are you always waiting for it to be done?
I wrote the same thing down. I thought that was so interesting. I mean, that that really gets to the heart of that kind of experience of doing the thing. And I asked my son because he had asked to quit both piano, which we resisted for a while. We said you have to go through to the recital, which was fine. I think that was probably the right thing in that case to make sure. And then he to quit individual trombone lessons too, but still play. And I asked him this morning, I said, we're talking about quitting on Coffee with Jen and Sharon. Do you have any regrets about quitting? He said, nope, nope. And occasionally he'll say, I'm so glad I quit. It's that feeling of relief. It's like, I just wasn't enjoying that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other things that he enjoys more. So
Yeah.
I think it gets a little trickier if you think it's because of a different reason, though, like fear or pressure, or you think they actually like the thing,
Mm-hmm.
or you've committed to it, but then it seems like it's too late. Like the reason this came up in part was because in our Working Hard to Raise Teens Facebook page, I wish I could post these things while I'm talking.
We're not that talented, but
No.
we'll post them afterward.
But we do have this parent Facebook group, and someone had brought up the situation where I think the 13-year-old is just not wanting to play baseball this spring, and the parents have invested a lot of money in uniforms and fees. And I think there might also be concern that because of the pandemic, the kids kind of slipped into video gaming, which, a lot of us can relate to. I know I have a gamer in my house. But, at that point, if you've gone that far and you've paid money, then what do we do? Do we say you have to finish it out?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It feels like it's kind of what you would call sunk costs.
Yeah.
We have a comment from somebody who's watching us. Alyssa, thank you for joining us. She says, I think some teens quit because things start getting more challenging and they fear failure. I was a kid. I did. As a kid, I quit gymnastics because I was pretty good at it. I was a super bendy kid. I was like rubber, made out of rubber. I was very flexible. I could do all the things. But when you get to a certain level, the next thing they do is they put you up on the uneven bars.
Oh, yeah.
To do flips, and they had to like boost you up.
Yeah.
And I had a very strong self-protective streak.
Yeah.
I think if I fall off that, it's gonna hurt a lot, and I don't really like that. So,
yeah. I think that's a really great point, and I have seen that in my house too. I have a kid who picked up ice skating and really advanced pretty rapidly. This is pre-pandemic. Now we're on hold. And it just, I think, started to get a little overwhelming. Like all of a sudden there were going to be jumps, there was going to be more falling. Mm-hmm. And it just happened so fast. And I think that self-protective instinct kicked in. Like, this doesn't feel good because it feels scary all of a sudden.
Right. And some kids love that. They thrive on that. And mm-hmm. those are kids that's a great fit for them. So maybe it's okay to explore that feeling of, what is it that's holding you back? And maybe if you like certain things about what you're doing and certain things you don't like, what other activity could offer you the options for the things you like about this? If it's the dance movement, maybe it's that you want to do dance, and you when you're dancing, you might do some of the very same moves, but you're staying a little closer to the ground and there's not slippery ice involved and a sharp blade.
Right.
So maybe that's the thing. Like, how do you do it? And I also think, and I wonder if this might be more true for boys than girls, but when they get into competitive sports, there's so much tied into this idea of it's your identity. And like, are you on the varsity team? Are you on the B team? And girls face this too. I know they do, but it's sort of like, it becomes, um, maybe it feels embarrassing if you're not on the A team or you're not on the travel team and you can't hang with those people anymore. So you'd rather take yourself out of the game than be told that you can't.
Or you're on the team and you feel like, hey, I can see I'm not as good as these other kids. I feel like and they're not cutting me, but I feel like I'm dragging them back, and that just doesn't feel good.
Or riding the pine on the,
Yeah,
as they go for baseball. Yeah, I know. I feel for kids. They are dealing with some very challenging emotions that go along with it. So I think rather than just having a hard and fast rule of we don't quit what we start in this house, I'm all for kind of examining what is behind what's the emotion that's behind the
right.
desire to quit.
And sometimes maybe there's middle ground too. Like
Mhm.
in the case of my kids, a couple of them, um, the resistance hasn't been to the actual activity, but to the competitions associated with it, or the shows. Like, well, I'd like to do piano, but I don't want to do recitals. Can I do it
Mhm.
without doing the recital? And that's a little tricky because I think it is important to, learn to get up and face your fear, blah, blah, blah. But that's an individual thing that maybe we can compromise on, or maybe you can do one recital, but not two. And then, something like dance or skating, you can do it just in terms of lessons, or you can do it competitively. So maybe there's a compromise, to do it, keep it up, and then, and excise the part that's the most uncomfortable. If I don't know, it's so hard to make any hard and fast rules as it is with anything on parenting. It's sort of like this back and forth. What are we going to do? What is my kid really thinking? What is best for them? I think Alyssa has another comment here for us. Depending on what the thing is, I say if it made the commitment, you need to finish it out. So moving forward in our family, we're choosing things that don't last September to June. We're choosing
Oh,
shorter commitment schedules, like an 8-week thing. I think that's a great idea.
brilliant. I am so in favor of that, especially in the middle school years. I think middle school, there should be a rule that you can't do something for a whole year. I really think so because you're sampling everything. There's this buffet of things out there to try. And if the only thing that you have room for in your life is the one thing,
That's true.
how do you know what else you might want to dabble in or to pick up? I'm one of those people who's concerned about the fact that kids are kind of forced into specializing very early,
Especially in sports. I
sports.
mean, there's so much pressure to leave the rec leagues and go for the year-round stuff, and if they love the sport, it's really hard to say no. Their friends are doing it, but on the other hand, it is shutting out the other things.
Right. We
It does
actually,
make it more all or nothing. Like either I quit or I'm all in.
yeah,
Um,
and we have there's research out there and we have some articles that we can dig out later on this topic too, but about how specializing too early in a sport is actually not good physically for kids.
right.
And
Yeah, and a lot of even professional athletes have said that the best background they had was, until they were well into their teens, they were playing lots of different sports, and they think it actually helped them. So,
right.
um, I guess we don't have all the answers, and we're kind of in the same boat. I'd love to hear what other people have quit themselves, or
Yeah,
what your relationship with quitting is. Did it change? Are you more
right.
pro
Sharon,
quit?
I didn't get to hear what you quit as an adult, if anything, or maybe you're just not a quitter.
Oh, and no, I did learn to quit books.
Mhm.
I actually started a nonprofit a few years ago that I did quit because I felt like I wasn't giving it enough attention, and
Mhm.
even though I believed in it, I felt like it would either need to be talk about all or nothing. I
Yeah,
felt like it would need to be a full time. It could be a full time job.
yeah.
But I just had to make peace with the fact that for the 3 years I did it, that it did a lot of good, um,
Mhm.
and then that's not nothing. Nothing needs to last forever. It can be good for a period of time, and then habits. It can be part of an era,
Mhm.
and then we can move on.
I
And
think maybe part of this discussion is showing our kids through our actions how to gracefully quit too. Like there are ways to leave something and to make sure you're not leaving somebody in the lurch,
yes,
or that you're doing some self-reflecting about what am I going to take away from this process? What will I learn from this? The fact that this didn't work out.
Right.
If that's the reason you're quitting something, is because it just didn't work out. I think that's a really good lesson for our kids to learn, but they can learn it from how we model it too. So if there's something that you have that you want to contribute to this conversation, we'd love to hear about it. And as we said, Sharon and I will do our best to link up some of the articles that we mentioned, because they were very helpful.
Yes, and we love hearing from everybody. So please pitch in and join.
And don't quit us. Please
What?
don't quit us. Come back every week. We want to keep having coffee with you.
We do. All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. Hang in there. Don't quit your day. Can't really do that anyway.
No, that's not an option.
All right. Bye, everybody.